Showtime! The Capital G show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here. Today we're looking at draw cards. They help you go fast, get to your combo pieces in a timely manner, and in a game where speed is pretty much everything, draw power is often equivalent to win power. So I've decided to put together a comprehensive list of the best of the bunch in a video I've aptly titled the top 10 draw cards of all time, the Yugioh hierarchy. Now, much like other videos in this series, I've based this list on multiple criteria, which includes the following, but isn't necessarily limited to the power of the card, splashability, the card's longevity, and then of course iconic status and fanfare. And just for clarification, the card can have other effects and uses outside of drawing cards, but the primary function of the card itself has to actually be drawing cards. So with all that said, let's begin. Number 10, Tech Genus Hyper Librarian. We start off our list with a card that isn't very relevant by today's metagame standards, but was a dominant force in the 5Ds era, used not just to synchro up into more powerful monsters, but to assure you never lost any advantage while doing so. TG Hyper Librarian made synchro summoning seamless and as safe as possible. The fact that the card had very manageable stats was just a bonus. Number 9, Chicken Game. Next up the bat is a card that instantly appeared to be so unhealthy for the game that it made you question if Konami's research and development team had maybe just missed the card completely. Chicken Game is the only card on this list that literally creates a game within a game, as it creates a dangerous dynamic of risk versus reward between the players to see who's gonna blink first. Both players can greatly benefit from the card, but it's definitely a gamble. Number 8, Destiny Hero Disc Commander. Everything that TG Hyper Librarian was for the 5Ds era, Disc Commander was for the GX era. Disc Commander was not only arguably the second best tribute fodder monster in the game after its fellow Destiny Hero brother Malicious, but it was the best monster in the game to revive, as it turned cards like Premature Burial and Call of the Haunted into +2s that set up for massive Monarch plays that changed duels. This was even further exacerbated with the release of Light and Darkness Dragon, which gave players another easy revival card for even more pluses. Number 7, Maxx, possibly the most unique card we'll discuss. While Maxx may not have the same level of raw power as other cards on this list, Maxx has arguably been relevant in the competitive metagame for every single format since its initial release, going all the way back to Storm of Ragnarok. A card that thrives on overextension, Maxx lets you capitalize off of your opponent's greed and aggression. Doing so in your opponent's turn makes this card extremely valuable and incredibly difficult to counter. Number 6, Upstart Goblin. It's often said that the best things in life are often the simplest, and that's pretty much the theme behind Upstart Goblin, a card that instantly replaces itself in exchange for giving your opponent 1,000 life points. May not seem all that impactful, however, the ability to essentially run less cards in your deck in order to hit your key cards quicker definitely is. Upstart's splashability and simple activation conditions are one of the reasons the card became so popular, so much so until just recently it was one of the most played cards in the game. Number 5, 6th Sense. The best metaphor for 6th Sense would probably be a strike of lightning. Fast, explosive, tons of collateral damage, but gone within the blink of an eye. Let it be known that 6th Sense is one of the most powerful cards ever to be printed, giving players the possibility of drawing an insane 5 or 6 cards, with the only downside being excavating anywhere from 1 to 4, which really isn't much of a downside for most decks. If you resolve the draw effect of 6th Sense, your chances of winning the duel went up astronomically. Truth be told, the only reason 6th Sense isn't number 1 on this list is because it was only legal for one format. Number 4, Pot of Avarice. This was supposed to be a far weaker version of another card on this list because the activation condition mandated that you have at least 5 monsters in the grave, and if all targets didn't return to the deck, the card effect would fizzle. The problem is, players soon learned that these drawbacks were actually a blessing in disguise, as it let them recycle key cards so that they could be used again. We also have to take into consideration that during the 5Ds era, the game saw an enormous boost in speed because of cards like Rescue Cat, Lone Fire Blossom, and Elemental Hero Stratos. The activation condition was soon a non-factor. Number 3, card of safe return. It's because of cards like this that we largely have a game where many card effects are limited to once per turn, and it's also thanks to card of safe return that back in the day, Zombies actually won a Shonen Jump and were in the finals twice in a row of the 2 events prior. A card with near limitless potential. Return in the right hands is often looked at as an auto win card because you could easily net 3 to 4 cards in a turn per copy. Think TG Hyper Librarian, but much easier to use. Number 2, Pot of Greed. You probably went into this video assuming that this would be number 1, right? Well, you'd definitely be wrong. While quite possibly the game's only true staple, with maybe the one exception being Infernity as far as a deck that actually wouldn't want to play Pot of Greed. Pot of Greed is one of the most beloved cards ever to be released, and it provides one of the easiest, most practical +1s that you could have. Honorable mentions include Card Destruction, Pantheism of the Monarchs, One Day of Peace, and Mirage of Nightmare. Finally, to our numero uno, Graceful Charity. While not the instant gratification that Pot of Greed is, Graceful Charity's ceiling is infinitely higher. I cannot stress that enough because we all know that the amount of decks that have cards that they don't mind discarding is vast, and by the pure design, Graceful Charity is not only immune to power creep, it's one of the few cards that has ever been released that will infinitely continue to get better as the Yu-Gi-Oh card pool expands. There literally is no ceiling for Graceful Charity because the card will just infinitely continue to get better, and that is why I chose it to be our number 1. So let me know what you guys thought of this list. Were there any cards that I left out of here that you think should have been on the list? What's your favorite draw card? Leave that in the comment section below. Thank you for watching as always. Subscribing makes life happy.